All right. Sound off time. Time for me to check in with my main squeeze. The lime to, I got a good one for you. Ready? The lime to my chicharron. How about that?
Hey, that's what's up. Yeah, I like that one.
All right. How are you doing? Did you miss me?
Yeah,
Probably
yeah.
not. That's all right.
No, of course. Yeah, I missed the show. Missed everyone. First of all, how are you? Congrats on the baby.
Thanks.
How you feeling?
Tired. But what else is new? I mean,
but MMA media has trained you well, right? To perform.
Yeah, exactly. Like people are like, "Oh my God, it's going to change your sleep." No, it's not. I'm well trained for this. So I don't know what y'all were talking about.
Yeah.
It's a little bit less sleep, but it's just I have to just sort of rejigger how I do it.
Right.
But it's great, man. The baby was healthy. Wife is a bit run down, as you can well imagine, but healthy.
Yeah.
And I send all my love to her and my little one, Iha. She's doing great. She put on, I was saying this, I told him Monday, it was not quite right. People don't know this. Babies are born and then they lose weight because they're getting food on demand through the umbilical cord.
Yeah, I had no idea about that.
And if you go right to formula, they don't. But if you just decide to breastfeed, it could be a bit of a gap between birth and when the mother starts producing milk. Anyway, so she lost a little bit of weight. And then we had to go get her checked out. We went home from the hospital on a Monday, and we had to go get her checked out on a Tuesday. And they were like, "Yeah, she's lost even more. Here's what you got to do." But then my wife began to breastfeed her because it began to work out. By Friday, she had gained 1.5 pounds, bro, in 4 days.
Yeah,
she's out there getting fat. So I was very happy to see that. Yeah, bulking. It's bulking season.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, man, I'm regaling people with stories I don't care about, but I'm doing good.
No, dude. A lot of fans called. A lot of fans tweeted about it. People care, man.
Let me just say this.
It's a big moment.
It is a big moment. I appreciate that. Let me just say this very quickly. I got a ton of tweets and emails and Facebook messages and Instagram messages from a lot of people wishing me well about the birth. I have not responded to all of them, but if you did, thank you. This baby entered the world with a lot of love, and honestly, dude, this may shock you. I'm actually doing quite well. I feel very happy.
That's good to know.
Have you heard me say that, huh?
Yeah. Dad Thomas. Maybe you're gonna go on a streak like
Cerrone. I'll be like Dad Thomas out there just mauling people. Probably not, but still.
It's a good segue into our first question because the caller asked about that. So
let's do it.
Hey, Luke, Danny, everybody in the back. This is Ben from RVA. Just wanted to give you guys a quick call and mainly tell Luke congratulations on the birth of your child. I'm sure it's an exciting moment for you and your family, and I'm sure you'll be at least passable father. But on to the more serious MMA discussion, I just wanted to check in and see, now that you are also a father, do you identify a little bit more with fighters like Donald Cerrone and Dustin Poirier, whose career seems, with the birth of their children, they seem to find new motivation and new drive to succeed for the sake of their children? I'm curious to see if you've felt any inkling of that yourself.
All right, I'm going to cut it right there.
Yeah, shouts to Richmond, Virginia, by the way. It's a great place. Love it.
I've only been there once, and I loved it.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
How long ago?
Like 2 years ago, maybe?
Okay, so pretty recent. Yeah, it's a cool town. It's a really cool
town.
Yeah,
like 2 years ago.
One of America's hidden gems.
Yeah. Some of the best pasta I've had was there, and I've been all over Italy. So
yeah. The food, and people don't know this, the food in Richmond, Virginia is unbelievable. And I don't know if you know this, the tattooing there is quite high as well.
Did not know that.
Yeah, I got a few tattoos there.
Yeah. So there's actually something I wanted to ask you. Like, is there like a tangible sense of, I don't know, do you feel any different now that you're a father?
Actually,
and like, feel like
it's so funny. And I've only been a dad for 8-9 days, something like that. My baby was born at 2:25 in the morning on Saturday. Yes. Here's what I would say though. I was already kind of working at my maximum capacity. I was busier than I could even be productive, if that makes sense. My life was filled with so much work. I wasn't actually doing the highest quality of work. If the baby has done anything, and by the way, some dads don't bond with their kid until several months into the baby's existence. That was not how I felt. I felt something immediate. And I feel something immediate even talking about it. It has began because it's such a new process. It had an immediate impact on how I evaluate my priorities. I will be honest about that. Not sure exactly how they will change and what capacity or when, but yeah, like there was a real recentering about, okay, what not only is my responsibility, what more could I do, but what more could I do effectively and in the right way? And that has been something I've been thinking about every single day, quite candidly, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. So Dad Cerrone must be a real thing, you know?
I without knowing him better, it's hard to say exactly how it changes him. Because in MMA, you know this very well, Dan.
Yeah.
We like to say things like, "Oh, this thing affected him, a weight class change."
It's all about storylines.
Yeah, it's all about storylines, and you just never really know if that's real. Donald Cerrone has a lot of success in short bursts when he changes weight class. Is that exactly what's happening here, and we're just attributing it to that? You know, it's really hard to say. I think the tape does show a more mature, technically refined fighter.
Yeah.
And the Iaquinta win, people aren't talking about this, dude. That's one of the better wins in Donald Cerrone's career.
Dude, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure he came in as an underdog. I don't know.
Probably. Dude,
Yeah.
Al's
legit,
really
bro.
good.
Yeah.
He's really good. So for me, is there something to it? Hard to say exactly, but I wouldn't discount it if it was true. I'd put it to you like that.
Cool.
And for someone like, I think it's more true for Dustin Poirier, because Dustin Poirier was in, juvenile detention and was kind of a, I love Dustin, but I think he would agree. He was kind of a mess up early in his life, and he got recentered real quickly with the baby. And I think that put him on a very clear, defined path. Yeah. So for that, I think it's a little more attributable. For Donald, could be. We'll have to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that being said, let's talk about a question about mindset. I thought this was a very good question.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Matthew calling out of New York. My question has to do with Donald Cerrone talking about how he's a dad and 3-0 from that. How important is mindset in MMA?
Oh.
So
go ahead.
I don't know. I thought this question was great because I feel like watching Donald Cerrone fight this weekend and his past couple performances as well, like, sure, I'm sure there's some improvement there. Like, he's gotten better. But I think the clear difference is the mindset that he's taking in, with like using with his career right now. Because if you look at it, like before, he was always like, "Yo, I'll fight anybody, anywhere," and he was kind of careless about his career in a way. I'm sure he would agree to that as well.
Sure.
Now he's like super focused, and he's actually like, "Oh, I need meaningful opponents. I actually need to take breaks." He's actually planning this whole thing out, and I think having a kid really pushed him to do that. So I guess how important is mindset? Because skill-wise, he looks about the same. I'm sure he's improved, but, I mean, we didn't see, like, a drastically new cowboy out there.
Here's what I would say. You can win inside. People don't want to admit this, but it's true. Yeah. You can win with almost any mindset in the UFC. I have seen fighters afraid and win. I have seen fighters overconfident and win. I have seen fighters no emotion and win. I've seen fighters sad and win. I've seen fighters happy and win. I've seen it all. But the very best ones always say the same thing. There's a real clarity about, number one, who they are.
Yeah.
There's a clarity of the task at hand, and there's a clarity of their purpose, both in that particular moment and then more generally. They just have a keen awareness of everything. And then, by the way, just because there's clarity doesn't mean there also isn't fatigue or sadness or fear. There can be those things too. But think about the very best fighters. I mean, name somebody, John Jones, right? Mm-hmm. Dude, John Jones has clarity of purpose. He is very clear about what he wants to do in there. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean like I know exactly what I want to do if he throws a left hook. But there's this general calmness about understanding what I have to do, who I am, and where I'm headed in this short and longer journey. Donald Cerrone talks like he has clarity of purpose now. Yeah. That to me stands out.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's super key. I feel like as you mentioned, you can win with any type of mindset, but I feel like that goes specifically to a moment, to a fight. But if you're talking about like having a sustained,
great point,
long streak, you need that mindset. Like you can't go with like a different mindset every time. You need a mission, you need a purpose.
Right, that's right.
Which is super important. And for example, we just, we didn't have a show last week, but we would have talked about Rory McDonald, like his mindset.
Right.
Like he looks about the same fighter as far as skill-wise, but like his mindset is changing the way he fights.
And the differences are subtle. People are like, oh, it's the same guy on tape. No, it is not.
Yeah.
No, it is not the same guy on tape. I interviewed Rory McDonald before he fought Shea Mills in Atlanta. That was the card.
Mills, wow.
Yeah. That was the card, if you recall, where John Jones, speaking of which, fought Rashad Evans.
Yep.
And I remember, dude, I had to literally like put my hand in front of Rory McDonald's face because he was just ice grilling Shea Mills. Like he was like almost frothing at the mouth would be an exaggeration, but dude, there was a major intensity.
Yeah. To use Chuck Minnesall's words, that's a cold dude.
He's a cold dude, man.
Yeah.
And he didn't forget how to fight, but that he summons that will and expresses it with the same intensity. Clearly he doesn't.
Yeah.
He's telling you he doesn't. At least not for that fight. Now maybe he can recapture it. I don't know. It's a big question, but yeah, dude, that's a real thing. It's a very real thing.
Yeah. Skills obviously important, but I think mindset is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let's talk about another fight here. Let's see if Cowboy gets this big money fight that he's been asking for.
Danny, Luke, big fan. My name's Habib Rahmani, calling from the Bay Area, California. Yay, yay. Anyways, my question for you beautiful folks is, do you believe Mr. McGregor will return in July to fight Cowboy? What's your guys' input on that? I'd like to know. I'm really interested. Also, if I could put my 2 cents in, I feel Cowboy should fight KG and Ferguson should fight McGregor. I don't know if that's reality. I know it's McGregor's world, but I don't know. I'd like to hear what you guys think, and thank you so much.
All right. What was the first question again?
So what do you think McGregor Cerrone happens in July?
Can I be honest about this? I am not opposed to Cerrone versus McGregor. If they make that fight, awesome. Great. Like,
but you don't seem you're too into it.
I don't see it as God, how do I explain this? I'm not in any way opposed to it. I'm not in any way moved by it either. It doesn't did you watch Marie Kondo on Netflix?
No.
She's this person who like specializes in people organizing their lives, particularly the material things around them.
Yeah. Well, I've seen the I know with the show, but I haven't seen it.
I think I got her name right. Marie Kondo, Kondo, whatever. And her rule of thumb is for things you want to keep or not keep is, does it spark joy? Mm-hmm. Right? It doesn't spark joy for me. I don't know why. Yeah. I'm not telling you that that's the way you should think or that the viewer should think. I'm not. But I saw like when the fight was over, I was thinking more about like Cowboy, and I was sort of reflecting on his growth. And then I saw all these things like, oh my God, the fight with McGregor needs to happen. Again, man, if they make it, believe me, I am not in any way standing in front of it. Great. I don't feel any particular way about it. I must be in the minority here.
Yeah, I think so. I like it. I think, there's other fights for him as well. I don't think this is the fight to make, but I think this is a route they can go. I think also something that's being overlooked here is if you look at McGregor, what he does as well is he boosts his other fighters' profile as well, depending on how the fight goes. Like, he is a platform. Like, Nate Diaz has been the same dude throughout his entire career, even after McGregor. Some things have changed, of course, like the way he's negotiating with the UFC, but I'm saying as a person, as a character, he feels to me about the same. He just needed that platform, for the world to see. And all of a sudden, he became a superstar. I think Cerrone could be the same case. Like, this is someone, if you give him a big platform, because he's an interesting character. He could all of a sudden be, a big fight in the mainstream world.
Well, I would love for him to get paid. Yeah. I would love for him to get the visibility. I'm not in any way opposed to the fight. But for some reason, like, I'll be honest with you, if they said it was going to be Poirier versus McGregor or Poirier versus Cowboy, they're not going to. But let's just say they were.
Yeah.
I don't know. Part of me would be more interested in that. I'm more interested in like Tony Ferguson. I can't quite put my finger on it. And also
Tony Ferguson McGregor?
Yeah, Tony Ferguson versus Cowboy. Like, I'd be super sized for that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I think it's it's a good fight because
it is.
Cerrone's a slow starter. McGregor is a fast starter.
Yeah.
That makes a real bad matchup for him early. But then McGregor fades. Cowboy does not.
Does not. He picks up, if anything.
And very good at submission. So if it goes to the ground, there's that as well. Like, there's a lot of reasons to think it could be a very competitive fight. Maybe I'm talking myself into it. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
Keep going.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great fight. If they make it, awesome. Yeah. But I'm not like its number one advocate.
I like it. I'm a fan.
Cool.
And I've been vocal about this before in this program, but I wouldn't like to see Tony Ferguson. I mean, if he needs the money, go ahead, fight. But if you're good on money, just wait out. You've done enough. You'll get the next.
You mean to repair his mental health situation?
Yeah, that of course, yeah. But what I'm saying is, like, let's say he's ready to come in and come back, and he wants to like fight on the same card as Khabib. Like, I wouldn't want to see that, man. Like, you've done enough, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I understand, like, fighting is the way he makes money. So if that's what he wants to do, sure. But I think if he's good, he should sit out. And by the way, McGregor Ferguson, I don't think that ever happens. They're managed by the same team.
Ferguson left. Ferguson.
Oh, he's with a new manager.
Yeah, he left Audiatar for what reason I do not know. Huh. Paradigm. Relatively recent. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the reasoning is. I don't know if it was amicable or not, but he is not with them anymore.
Interesting. All right. Well, let's talk about the heavier guys in the UFC.
Okay.
How's it going, Luke and Danny? This is Dustin from Phoenix, Arizona. I just had a question. With Greg Hardy and Walt Harris's wins coming a week apart from one another and very similar styles against almost similar opponents as well, do you think that they should actually be matched up next? I would love to see that fight. I feel like Walt Harris would obviously win just from an experience standpoint, but from the power that Hardy possesses, who knows what could happen. Love the show. Love to hear your guys' thoughts on that matchup, and hope you guys have a good one. Thank you. Bye.
That's an,
you know what?
that's an interesting
I'm down
question.
For that fight.
You like it?
I didn't think about it until this caller mentioned it. I'm like,
what did you think of Greg Hardy's last fight? I was in the minority on this one as well, but what did you think about it?
It was weird.
What was weird about it to you?
It was an odd fight. I don't know. There was something weird about it. I don't know. I don't think his opponent was trying to win.
No, he was not.
He was not trying to win.
No, he was trying to win under maybe the smallest of conditions. And once those went away,
he didn't put any resistance.
Okay, here's my point. If he had gotten the takedown very easily, he probably would have tried, but he didn't. And then he
wasn't even driving. He wasn't changing levels.
No, but let's just say.
But yeah,
you think if he got the takedown, he would have quit? I don't think so. I think he would have kept going, but he didn't, and then he immediately quit. In my judgment, right? So that's what happened there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a weird fight.
Here is where I come down on this. I don't present it. Let's forget about Greg Hardy and the whole domestic violence thing, which we've talked about to death. Okay, everyone's going to have their opinions. Yeah. He's just going to be here for better or for worse.
Yeah.
I made this point, and I really stand by it. If you go to enough regional MMA shows, what you saw between Greg Hardy and Dmitry Smolikov was common. It happens all the time. And I got news for everybody. If you watched Greg Hardy versus Alan Crowder, he needs work. Not Alan Crowder, but Greg Hardy. He's not UFC level. Fact. He's not. Now, he may become one. He may be very close.
Wait, but he's so athletic.
He is athletic. He is athletic. That's a very true statement.
I'm just trolling, yeah.
But the point...
No, he's clearly not UFC right.
So this is my point. If that fight had taken place on the regional scene, you would not look at it like some really valuable experience. But what you would say is, he got another camp in, Greg Hardy. He got another weight cut in. He got more training time. He did one more walk. He did one more round of interviews. Yep. When you're that green as a fighter, that matters. Those reps matter. Now, he obviously needs in his next fight somebody who will offer some resistance. I don't think you can keep doing what Smolikov did and matching him up with people like that. No, you cannot do that. But people be like, this is so weird. The only thing weird about it is that Dana White keeps signing guys who are not UFC ready and then wonders why they can't perform at a UFC level.
Yeah.
That's what's weird. That shit is common at regional MMA shows. I see it all the time. So it's fine. Whatever.
Yeah. It was, and I'm not down to see those type of fights. Like,
that's why you don't,
fun, man.
That's why you don't put those kinds of fights in the UFC. So they can get all, like Greg Hardy did what he was supposed to do, man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he goes in there and his job is to, try to finish the fight and win, and that's exactly what he did. Something that bothers him, he's like, okay, fine, if you're going to do that, do it. But don't put in the co-main event. Like, I want to see something good in the co-main event. Like, I've been waiting all day, all night to watch that. You know what I'm saying?
Should be buried on the prelims.
Exactly. That should be the first fight.
No, you know where it should have been? There was a Titan FC the day before. Should have been on that, is where it should have been. And you probably wouldn't have said a lot of great things about it. But again, if you're in his camp, I guarantee you his camp thought that was a valuable experience. Of course it was valuable for him.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous to argue otherwise. It's just ridiculous to expect guys who need that kind of experience to perform in any other kind of way. Anyway, point being is against Walt Harris. I would have said a year or two ago, if like Greg Hardy was as good as he is now and was fighting Walt Harris of 2 years ago, I would say I would have a lot more confidence in it. I got a sneaky feeling that Walt may have turned a corner.
Yeah.
And
he looked good, man.
He looked really good. And so if I'm right about it, and I don't know that I am, but if I'm right.
And notice it was like a similar performance to Greg Hardy's, but the difference was the opponent was still trying to like stay in the whole time.
It was a similar level of execution, only there was a resistance there. So I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I wonder if that also is not the right next step. But it's an interesting question.
Yeah, but I'm down for that fight. I want to see Greg Hardy challenged.
Okay.
Yeah,
me too.
All right, let's I guess keep talking about heavyweights. I'm not sure.
People love the heavyweights.
Question.
¿Cómo estás, Danny? Luke, I have a question. This is Kevin calling from New Orleans, Louisiana. And I just recently met the big diesel Superman, the one and only Shaquille O'Neal, who said Forrest Griffin is the strongest man he's ever grappled with or anything like that. My question is, how do you think Shaquille O'Neal would do in the UFC heavyweight division? Recently on TNT after a playoff game, 3 guys tried to tackle Shaquille O'Neal and could not take him down.
Yes, 3 donks.
I think that Shaq's takedown defense would make him impossible to beat in the UFC.
Oh,
if he trained all of his life, I think Shaq would be the Khabib times 10 of the UFC. Thank you guys for your work. I love you guys. Peace.
Yeah, did you watch what he's talking about, the clip he's talking about?
I didn't,
Dude,
but
they
I
had
can
3 pre...
Can he even make 265? That dude must be like 350.
Maybe in his college days, but not now.
That dude's huge.
Yeah, they had 3 pre-diabetic gas station attendants try and take him down, and they did, by the way, just not on the first try.
Yeah.
First of all, here's what would happen. If you ever like spar with somebody like really tall, really lanky?
Sparred or like grappled?
Grappled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what would happen. Cormier would shoot. He would be much faster, significantly faster. Shaq would sprawl, and then Cormier would cut the corner and turn him over. It would happen over and over and over and over again. Yo, he would get, in the words of Training Day, his S pushed in. It would not be close. It would not be a thing. It would no.
Yeah.
I think that kind of height is a true detriment, actually, in MMA. You want to be lanky and you want to be long, but there needs to be, like, John Jones, we bring him up again. He seems to be like the maximum you would want to push that to, where you're still kind of, you're tall, but you're not crazy tall.
Unless you're like also like a Stefan Struve, like crazy agile and with a good guard, which I don't think that would be the case with Shaq.
Right. I mean, who knows? He's a ridiculous athlete. I would have said something more along the lines of like, you want an athletic heavyweight who might have been good in MMA. Get me someone who's got a little bit more bulk. Someone I would say like a Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson, you don't know who?
Football?
Oh my God, you don't know who Zion Williamson is?
No.
Hey, can everyone in the back there smack Danny for not knowing who Zion Williamson is? Yes, there's Joe in the back. Zion Williamson was the #1 college player in basketball this year. He's 6'7" and 280 and had I think a 45, 47 something inch vertical. Dude, he looked like he could honestly jump to the stars. I've never seen an athlete built like that who could move like that. Somebody like that would be interesting in MMA. But even then, you have to have the mental constitution for it. Folks forget this. God, who was the Redskin who got his ass beat, who beat up Stephen Davis? Oh, God, this is so embarrassing that I can't remember my own. There was a Washington Redskin wide receiver, and he got in a fight with Stephen Davis, and he bodied him. He ended up being like a black belt in jiu-jitsu, like real jiu-jitsu. He fought MMA. He did poorly in MMA. Like, you have to have a certain – God, it's going to kill me now. You have to have a certain constitution to compete. So even if you're big and strong, if you're not mentally the kind of person who likes to hurt people, it's going to be a problem.
I mean, there was a football player, remember in the tough season, the one that
Michael
was
Westbrook.
heavyweights
Michael Westbrook was his
with
name.
Kimbo Slice.
Yes.
I think his name was like Babyface or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. He was huge, and he didn't do too well.
Like Michael Westbrook was the one. Dude, Michael Westbrook was a tier 1 athlete. Couldn't hack it in pro fighting. It's not for him, so.
Yeah. Interesting.
He was an okay fighter.
Our editor just slacked me. He's like, yeah, Michael Westbrook.
Yeah, Michael Westbrook. Oh, God. This is how little I sleep. I can't remember Michael Westbrook. You ever seen the footage of that?
No.
Dude, it was at a practice, and he mounted Stephen Davis.
Oh, it wasn't even in a game?
No. Teammates.
Oh.
And he mounted him and then went to work on him from the mount position. Yeah, he had trained. Yeah, it was ugly.
That's crazy. All right. Let's talk about something actually you recently did on your YouTube channel.
All right.
Ashley from Huntington Beach.
Oh, I know her.
Okay. Hey, Luke, congratulations on your brand new baby girl. First of all, it's wonderful news. Secondly, my question was about the fighter pay study that you did. Kudos on that, by the way. It was really fascinating. I'm wondering to what extent that may have impacted your opinion of how underpaid fighters are. Do you feel like it reinforced what we already knew about that, or do you feel like there were other layers that maybe swayed you in the other direction? Just curious about that. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't seen it, it's posted at the top of my Twitter timeline, at @LThomasNews. This guy from American University named Eric Kerner, who is a PhD candidate in applied statistics, reached out to me, and he's an MMA fan and ran some numbers on fighter pay and found a bunch of different findings. One of which was that basically if you're not ranked and you're not in a title fight, you're going to make nothing. These are two of the most important considerations for making money. And there's so much more to it. That podcast we recorded is a year old. I sat on it for a year, not quite a year, but a long time. And just because I actually, the day we recorded that, I got the call to take this job. So you can imagine my distraction.
A lot has happened since.
You can imagine my distraction. So in any event, no, it's been colored by that. We've had the debates. Whatever our opinions about the interim title, Danny, both of us agree on one thing. It is a better way to make some money. Now, of course, they could just pay the guys more, but you and I have definitely agreed that, they're going to get more money as a consequence, and that is one value. But if you haven't seen the math on it, when you realize what you're going to make without being ranked and without having a title, you are going to make very little. Very little.
Yeah, and when that study was done, what years again did it target it?
It's about mostly 2017.
Okay, so the Reebok deal was already in place. Okay, yeah, it was interesting for me. I saw it all. It just reinforced what I already knew, but it was nice to get some numbers, and there was a few like things like especially like the jump in pay in between divisions and stuff like that. Like that was really interesting. But a lot of it was just like reinforcing. But it's like finally we get like
a clear sense.
Some facts,
folks are asking
numbers,
like, we know fighters are underpaid. What value is it? Well, now it concretizes exactly how much.
Yeah,
we have a much keener understanding. And by the way, also John Nash over at Bloody Elbow did his own study trying to find out how much extra is there in hidden pay, so to speak. And for some fighters, it's
hard to track.
It is hard to track. So his best guess is about a third more in certain cases, which can be substantial and sometimes, but sometimes not. So, we're trying to better understand fighter pay. And there's by the way, the biggest thing I took from that whole thing is seniority doesn't really matter for and tenure doesn't matter for fighter pay. There's no connection between the two, and that women, when controlling for other factors, do not make less, which I also found. So it's because it's not all bad news. Sometimes it's good news.
Right. Yeah.
That was one of the bitter pieces of news that I thought came out of it.
All right. Let's do one more question, and we go back to the 155-pound division.
All right.
Hey, Danny. Hey, Luke. This is John from Chicago. Congrats, Luke, on the new child. My question for you is, when is the lightweight division when is that bottleneck going to be, like, when are we going to finally start to have normalcy in that division? Like, I'm just, like, there's so many great fighters there. I'm just getting so frustrated as a fan. Like, why can we not get these fights going? I know there's things like Khabib and the suspensions with Conor. God knows what's going on with him lately. But when are we going to finally start to have normalcy in this division? Like, there's so many great fights to make, but it's just like, I want to see Cerrone actually get a chance to fight for the title. But with everything that's going on, like, when can we finally get back to normalcy? All right, thank you.
So so we can, for example, we can say that the light heavyweight division is back to normal. Champion fighting number one contender, right? Mm-hmm. How long do you think it'll take for the 155-pound division to go back to normal?
Two things. Number one, the division is back to normal if you don't count the very top tier of it. Everything else is, look at over the weekend. You had Iaquinta fighting Cowboy. You had, Holloway coming up was a bit of a change, but Tony's issue is being what it are. But like outside the very, very top tier, they're trying to churn through everything. Gaethje fought Barboza, for example, right? So that portion of the division is functioning as normal. Look, you cannot get a functioning division in the totality in the way that which they're asking. Titles have to be defended. That's just there's just no other way
against the number one,
number one or the most deserving contender or whatever. Yep. So number one, that has to be sorted, and I guess that will happen in September. I guess we'll have to see. The second component, of course, is, dude, as long as McGregor's kind of floating out there as this weird specter where guys are sitting out or he can just jump the line, that's not going to help the normalcy of things either. So one, title has to be in rotation. And I think two, we kind of have to figure out like what space does McGregor really occupy in a comfortable way. And, how soon is that going to happen? Maybe this year, maybe next year. I don't know, but there's your answer. It's going to take those two things in short.
Yeah. I think one, activity from the champion is super important, but also like who he's fighting, If he doesn't fight the number one contender, then the queue just keeps getting longer and longer.
Certainly does. But they are rotating beneath it. Iaquinta was ranked 4 coming into this fight. 4.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, in that matchup, I think that matchup made sense, and it was a matchup that you had to do. But moving forward, for example, I think Cerrone is pretty close to a title shot. I mean, after that win.
Certainly is.
I don't think he should fight more than once. Like,
yeah, maybe one more.
One more, maybe. But anything more than that, probably not. But the thing is, with the state of the division, he might have to.
Right.
Because you got Ferguson waiting in line.
So many rotations that have to happen. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
So I think it might take, if let's say like the champion is constantly defending the belt, I think it might take like a year and a half for the full rotation for everybody that's currently deserving a title shot to get a title shot and whatnot, and then just have the queue just run as normal, you know, and be on time.